Okay, we're still reading chapter 4, I think it is, Roy Ackerman. In Vicarage Road, they met Eric's dad. He was out on his round. As usual, the two boys stopped to say hello. Mr. Banks had a quick look at the sports page in one of the papers and gave them each a mint imperial. After, Roy said, "How about your dad? Does he know?" "Nobody knows," said Eric. "Just me and you." "Didn't you tell your mum?" Eric shook his head. "I was going to, but I couldn't." "I wouldn't tell mine," said Roy. "She'd say I was making it up." He pulled his cap over his eyes. "So, it's a secret. Just you and me." "Well, yes," said Eric. And Roy, who was perhaps now beginning to believe it, or half believe it, said, "Brilliant." From then on, there was little time for talking. They were behind with the round. It was late. As soon as they'd finished, Eric raced home for his second breakfast. Roy also went home. When Eric came into the kitchen, he found his mum drinking a cup of tea. His sister was chalking a picture on her blackboard. She was also sneaking a cornflake once in a while from Eric's bowl, where they were poured out ready. Eric sat down, added milk and sugar, and began to eat. His mum drank her tea and watched him. "You're a bit late." "Yes," said Eric. "What was it that you wanted to tell me?" "What?" said Eric. He'd heard well enough, but was playing for time. Suddenly he knew he wasn't going to tell his mum. Not yet, anyway. "What did you want to tell me?" said his mum. Can't remember." Eric bent over his bowl. He could feel his mum's gaze on the back of his neck. She had a way of finding things out that was a permanent mystery to him. Mrs. Banks carried her cup to the sink and glanced out of the window. "Are you all right, Eric?" "Yeah," said Eric. He turned his attention to Emily. She was crouching at her blackboard with her back to him. "What are you drawing?" "Dog," said Emily, without looking round. And his mum said, "She wants one." Eric finished his breakfast and found the things he needed for school. Sneakers, bag of cabbage stalks for the student's rabbit, and his school camp money. This was in an envelope on the table. After that, Roy arrived. He drew a hat on Emily's dog, which she thought was very funny. Eric gave him a look and a nudge. The look said, "I haven't told my mum. She thinks we're making up something. We're up to something." Eric could see his mum was watching Roy. The nudge said, "Let's go." On the way to school, Roy asked more questions. He'd had time to think. Although he never said it in so many words, what he was looking for now was proof. Eric realised this and did what he could. In an odd way, he was looking for proof too. "I told you about writing in the dirt, didn't I?" They were approaching the front playground. "Yeah," said Roy. "So we could ask that woman, you mean?" "You could ask her," Eric said. They entered the playground. "And I told you about begging for chips." Roy laughed. Begging for chips. He loved that, whether it was true or not. Ahead of them, a pile of boys was struggling on the ground. Perched on top was a familiar figure, looking pleased with himself. It was Hopper. Eric and Roy stared at each other. Roy said, "Didn't you say—" "Yes," Eric said, "it was Hopper. It was Hopper. I got the chips off. That's the proof. Ask him." "Right," said Roy, then hesitated. The trouble was, asking Hopper was easier said than done. Hopper was unpredictable. He could get a gang onto you for looking at him, or for not looking at him even. Hopper was a solid boy. He had a square body and a square head. He had transfers of famous racing cars stuck in his arms and tattoos in blue felt pen on the backs of his hands. Roy took the jockey cap off and put it on again. "You ask him," he said. "I don't need to ask him," said Eric. "I was there. You ask him." A red ball came bouncing towards them. Roy kicked the ball back over their heads. "I've got it," he said. "Let's ask Kenny Biggs." Kenny was Hopper's cousin. Also, he was in Roy and Eric's class. So Kenny was approached, told as little as possible, and promised a handful of Eric's crisps at playtime for his trouble. He agreed to do the job. "Ask him, was he at Purnell's fish shop last night?" said Eric. "And was there a dog there?" said Roy. "And what happened?" Eric said. Kenny went off in search of Hopper. He had left the pile of boys he'd been sitting on and had gone into the back playground. Eric and Roy sat on the dustbins outside the caretaker's room. The red ball came bouncing towards them again. This time Eric took a kick at it. Then Kenny came back. "What did he say?" said Roy and Eric together. "Hopper says, 'Who wants to know?'" said Kenny Biggs. And that is that.